should be your mic. Good evening and welcome to the almost 7 o'clock talk. Oh, there you go. Her mic wasn't working. Tonight we had a question posed. Why should somebody see a functional medicine doctor or the Integrated Health of Indiana? Why should they see us sooner than later? And that's an interesting question. I have my answer. What would be yours?
Well, it's always better to fix an acute problem than a chronic one.
That's very true, and I totally agree with that. The other thing I would say is, and it feeds into that, the longer you let some of these things stew or burn, the more damage that they do, and the longer that it takes to reverse them. And then sometimes you can't reverse them, and you can mitigate stuff. You can get people off of most of their drugs, but you can't get them off of all of their drugs. And we haven't really experienced that yet, I would say.
And we don't actually get them off of their drugs.
Yeah, their doctors take them off of their drugs. Yeah, we don't. As a chiropractor, I can't even prescribe aspirin. As a nurse, she actually has more say in the state of Indiana than I do on drugs, and she knows more about it because she's dealt with it more than I have. But my analogy for this is an analogy of a bank account. And if you start saving earlier, the more you will have in the end. So the earlier that you start with functional medicine, the earlier you start, honestly, testing your kids. We have several young patients that just started with us, and we're seeing a 7-year-old with disrupted gut stuff and dysbiosis and things like that. And honestly, she doesn't do a lot wrong. It's just the exposure to the environment anymore that we have that causes these things. And so the quicker that you get on to testing yourself and the quicker that you get on to testing your family, the more benefit that this will have long term. And plus, it just doesn't hurt to eat well and make sure you're getting good sleep and all of those things, because that way you can take a bigger hit. And when I say take a bigger hit, if you have a few days where you got to pull all-nighters, you can take that without the adverse reactions. And so it's always better to be in front of the wave than under the wave or behind the wave. And that's kind of the way that I think about that, and I look at that, because you can start to see trends in people. And one of the best things is if you do tests once a year, then you can start to see overall how you're doing. And then, of course, now that we're doing telomere testing, they can see how their longevity is working, because the telomeres lengthen as you go through the stages of detox and cellular health and bringing all of those things back. What you got to add?
Other than I'm not my age.
How would you tell someone with, let's just talk about children for a second. What is the importance of starting your children down this path?
Well, I mean, if you start them knowing exactly what is the issue with them, or, well, especially if you DNA test them and they all know their SNPs, they have their whole life to work with what they have.
Yeah, I never really even thought about that, because in the genetic testing that we do functional genetic testing. And so when you see that somebody has methylation or issues, or you see somebody has histamine issues, then you can start to tailor things. It's a lot more precision medicine and using food as medicine.
And if you get them healthy younger and keep them healthy, then you're just going to live a better life.
And that's one of the other things is our society, fast food, and right now's the time that baseball, all these parents are out there with their kids playing baseball, and it's the late night evenings, and it's the going to Dairy Queen, and I'm not against that. Hey, that's great to celebrate, and it's great to take the kids out, but it's also great to know what that's doing to the body. So the other nights that you're out, you're cleaning things up. And it just, if you want to be a millionaire, what is it they say? How much money you put in? It's like $20,000 or $30,000 into. It's the thing, the financial.
Oh, it's
people,
like $100 a week for the 30 years that you're working, and then you're a millionaire before you know it.
Rather than trying to make it all up at the end. And that's exactly what we're talking about here.
And honestly, I think it's $20 a week.
Yeah, it's not
for
much.
30 over 30 years. It's compounding, and
Yeah.
by the time you are retired, you have at least $1 million in the bank.
And health is no different. Our health is, you have a genetic savings account, and a lot of us blow through it by the time we're in our 20s and 30s. And if you have gut issues, you got to remember your gut turns over every 7 days. And so if you have a gut issue, you have the chance to start to affect your health within 7 days. But the other reason why it turns over every 7 days is so that if you have a problem, you have a better chance of clearing it. And if you don't clear it, you're not absorbing right. You're not assimilating your vitamins. You're not keeping the bacteria at bay. There's a lot of things that go wrong. And it may be something as simple as going and swimming in contaminated water. I can remember times we were eating today, and when we were eating, we saw a gentleman with a Muncie 70.3 shirt on. And he and I actually did the same race, and we were talking about it, and I was like, oh yeah, and I can remember swimming in the Ohio, and the tasted funny. And is that when I got the hemorrhagic E. coli? Don't know, but probably, But I've done a lot of swimming in a lot of different waters, and I know that I got Montezuma's revenge down in Cozumel one year. There's just no doubt about that. But you have me swimming in the Ohio twice, at least. I've done the swim across the Ohio for a race. And then I don't know how many times I put in at Madison and gone up and then floated in the water. And then you have swimming down in Mexico, eating. I always prepared my own foods down there. So I was eating their food that was cleaned with their water. That's where I got Montezuma's once. And then, swimming on the East Coast, there's just a lot of exposure there.
I stay out of the water. If it looks dirty, I'm not going in.
Yeah, but she's had mold issues and all these other things that if you're testing for these things once a year, and it's not that big of an investment, then all of a sudden, lo and behold, you can get on top of it quickly.
Well, and I don't even think you need to test every year, really, because
we don't need to do all three. You could do a omics. You could do.
Well, I think that once you've cleaned up yourself and you're really in tune with how your body works, you're very aware that something isn't working right quickly.
Yeah, and then you can get on it. And you really don't need to do the GI map and the Dutch. The omics, if you go to a practitioner that can read it, that's the thing. You have to, the omics gives you so much information.
Could be a girl.
Yes. The practitioner, let's keep it gender neutral. The practitioner has to be knowledgeable in organic acids, because that can tell you if you're having problems with fatty acid oxidation. That can tell you if you're having mold issues. That can tell you if you're having mitochondrial problems. There are so many things that
Yeah.
just that one test tells you
No.
if the person can
No.
identify the patterns. We have a lonely dog.
Yeah.
She started to be a trash panda,
And she's never been that way.
and now she's ultra needy. So our son started working second shift, so nobody's home during the day for poor Libby. But anyway, back to our problem at hand, or our thing at hand. Yeah, it doesn't have to be all three tests. It could be just the omics, or if you're tired, it could be just the adrenals, or if you're having diarrhea and constipation, it could be just the GI map. They all give you stuff to work on.
Right. And then, of course, our Dutch Plus.
Well, that yeah, sorry.
So if you learn who you are and how you work and how you feel, then you will very quickly be able to know something's wrong. And with a set of symptoms, there's always a test
To check it out.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, if you're feeling good and you're doing well, that's kind of the stage that we're at. We're at the stage of, well, we've tamped down all this other stuff. We got her Lyme disease under control. We've got all of this stuff. Now we look at, oh, okay, well, how do we optimize our health? And that's where we look at telomeres. And so the quicker that you get into the process of learning your body, to her point, the quicker you learn your body, the quicker you learn what you feel like and how you feel, and you can tell if you're off or not. And the quicker you have energy and you feel great and you have normal bowel movements and all of that stuff, the quicker you do that, then you get to start to play in the world of the biohackers who say they want to live to be 180 years old and whatnot. That's when you can start to play in that world and really feel not just good but excellent. I attribute my ability to have taken the bicycle wreck and to have taken the I fractured part of C6 while we were in Ocracoke. I take that into perspective because of everything that I do, because I do watch what I eat, because I do take proteolytic enzymes, because I know that if I go work out and I'm not taking my enzymes, I'm laid up for 2 or 3 days. And that just undoes everything that I tried to work for. But that's where we help you discover your body and how you work with your body.
Well, you talked about the telomeres, but for the people that don't know anything about those, tell them about what that test does.
Oh, well, telomeres. So if you look at our chromosomes, the very end caps, they're kind of like the end caps on your shoes. And so those end caps open up and then they allow the chromosomes to do their thing and they replicate. Well, if you don't have a good diet, if you don't have good sleep habits, sleep hygiene, you have a lot of stress, you have crappy company, whatever, any of the things that cause stress, inflammation, infections, your telomeres get shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. And soon you lose the ability to replicate that DNA. And so there's a thing called the Horvath clock that looks at these telomeres and it can tell you not only your so her biological age and her genetic age don't match up. She is actually genetically younger,
5 years.
5 years younger, genetic or biological age than her physical age. I'm dead even.
So my cells are 5 years healthier than my.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Your biological age is younger than your physical age, chronological age.
We have lots of people that come in and tell us, and actually a few here lately, that, I just look in the mirror and I'm just aging so fast.
Yep.
But, you have to keep your gut healthy. You have to keep your adrenals healthy. You have to optimize your hormones. Your hormones are so important for keeping your body healthy. And then your nutrients.
Yep.
get the ability to absorb them.
And you've worked a lot harder on your hormones than I've worked on mine.
I'm all about my hormones. I like my hair. I like my skin. I don't like wrinkles, and I like to perform well.
So, whereas I like to go to the gym and just work on testosterone and cardiovascular stuff, I actually haven't measured my hormones in a while, and I should.
And some people don't have the ability to make their hormones, or they are lacking things to make their hormones, so they need a little extra help.
And, that's all just part of why do we do the 3 tests? We want to look at your hormones. We want to look at your stress. That's one test. Looks at those 2. That is your Dutch Plus. That looks at saliva and urine. Then the next thing is we want to look at your GI health, because without your GI health, you're not going to produce short chain fatty acids. You're not going to produce the stuff to repair your gut. You're not going to produce your neurotransmitters. Your HPA axis is going to be off. That's the GI map. And the GI map also tells us how the enzymes are doing. So can you break down the things that you're eating? And that's the GI map. So you got the Dutch Plus and the GI map, and the last is the omics. And the omics is where I'm spending a lot of time now learning the nuances of that test, because that's even a genetic test. So if you see people that have enzymes that are twice the high level, that's a genetic issue. And then you start to see the patterns, and you put the patterns together, and that's what tells you where you have problems and how you can do you have metabolic syndrome? Is the metabolic syndrome because the ATP are damaged? Or is it because insulin is too high? Is it because cell health is off? There are so many things to look. There are over 72 analytes, so individual markers on the omics test, and it gives you a tremendous amount. And who knows what that thing's going to come up with in the future, because there's just so much that we don't know about the human body. It's not even funny, but we are getting better. So that's why, if you want to really get to longevity and you really want to perform when you are older, well, you got to do all that other work first. So let's go take it back to the money analogy. If you want to be a millionaire and you're in debt, well, you just can't go to saving money. You got to stop the spending. You got to pay off the debt. And then you have to start to save. And that's no different with the health. You got to get healthy. You got to knock down the inflammation. You got to have the GI working properly. You got to make sure your processes are all happening. And once you have all of those, now you can start to go into the refinement stages. Okay, how do I cause this to happen? How do I do these things? How do I lengthen my telomeres? And that's what we're here to help you do. We're doing it for ourselves. We can do it for you. We're teachers. That's the best way to put it. We were talking to several new functional medicine patients this week, and we say the same thing to all of them. We've never had you specifically walk in the door. So we can't just give you a cookie cutter thing. We have a cookie cutter set of tests that we do, and that starts to allow us to design your individual health plan. And then it's up to you to execute it.
And communicate what's working and what's not working, because we have no idea how your body is going to work or respond to the things that we put out there. And so that's just a communication between
us, or between you and the health coach, whatever the case may be. That has to be brought into the light so it can be addressed. So that's a very long way of saying, well, because everybody needs to be healthy. And the healthier we are, the more productive we are. And the more productive we are, the more that we have, meaning we as individuals have purpose. And when you have purpose and you can live your purpose, then you feel really good. So
I have something to add, just
add
a
away.
little tidbit. So we talk about, all the good stuff and keeping your body healthy and clean and all that good stuff. But to grow old and to still be able to do all the things you want to do, you have to keep your hips mobile. Do hip exercises. That's actually fascinating to me. At 50, I have tight hips, but you really need to strengthen your hips because you really want to be able to get up and down off the floor with one point so that you can take care of your grandchildren, so that you can do the things that you want to do, so you can garden. So, anyway, just spend 5 to 10 minutes every day doing exercises, which really is
Well, what's one of
it's
the
stretching, which strengthens your hips. So
what's one of the number one reasons why people go into assisted living? They can't get off the pot. So
that's
if you
true.
can't squat and get off the pot, you got to have help.
And a lot of times
And
you've lost it before you even know you've lost it.
And I love what the assisted living homes do. They do a service and a half, but I really would rather just be outside. I'd rather be out doing things, and I realize people need help, and they do a great service, and they help a lot of people. Personally, I want to live on my own, and I not only want to live on my own, I want to thrive
Well, I was going
on
to
my
say,
own.
I don't want to just be surviving on my own. I want to be thriving until I go see Jesus.
Yeah, well, I love my dad. His 2-year death anniversary was a couple days ago. But in the end, Dad was basically in his recliner.
But I will have to say, for 83, was he 83?
No, he was like 85.
85, and still went to work every single day. He did something every single day.
Yep.
Even if it wasn't long, he still did something every day. But if you're wondering how to keep your hips mobile, sit on the floor with your legs out in a V, and all you really have to do is take a hand weight or a can of juice and sit it in front of you, or a bottle of water, and it's literally just picking your leg up over that water bottle into center and back again. That's 5 minutes every day.
Just YouTube hip
It'll just, yeah.
exercises.
But seriously, it you got to keep your hips. You have to keep your joints healthy.
All right. Thank you. We'll see you next week. Have a great day.